jangwe nze kugambe jangwe ncha
ani ataddemu amaanyi maani oba
do not worry, just show up.
Yeah.
Today's episode is for only bearded men. Feeling left out.
And Dennis.
Yeah.
It is nature.
I'm missing Franklin finally, because for him at least final level it would be at the same level, but you guys have chosen to make sure today you're looking very fresh and clean with the beards, but another interesting episode of the Weekly Wowos coming up, and this week we're going to be talking about the Uganda Cup finalists, as well as Vipers clinching the Uganda Premier League. And of course, a lot more stuff again from the schools rugby that happened. Budo still reigning supreme. The volleyball finals are on. Sportes are taking on not KVC, but Sportes taking on Nemo Stars. That is all going to be coming up in this weekly episode of the Weekly Wowos, and I'm your usual host, Dennis Msali. And like I've mentioned, the guys I have today, both of them looking very, very good. Fresh and clean. The only missing, this is like a Venn diagram. I'd be in the middle. Our rugby resident expert, Joseph Muhumuza, as well as Kyle Edwin Kule, will be with me, and of course later on will be joined by Coach Ismail Kionga. But let me go to the guys and find out their weekly starters. Let me start with Joseph.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Weekly Wowos once again. My name is Joseph Moms, the rugby connoisseur at Kawowo Sports. Thank you very much for having me.
Connoisseur.
Hiya, boss. I'm just listening.
Joseph, what was your starter this week?
Of course, my starter this week is a very emotional story coming out of Chad Dondo. Of course, it is good and bad news, but for Coach Athio Mohammed, who was announced last week that he was leaving his role as the head coach, officially retiring from coaching the Heathens. And of course, they received more good news when Coach Tobert Onyango was announced as the next coach of the Heathens. Of course, for those who are not familiar with Coach Tobert Onyango, he's the current sevens coach of the national team men, and now he's taking on the role at Heathens as the 15s and of course sevens coach. And there's a seventh season that is going to come, so we should all look out for the Heathens.
One of the things I liked about Heathens, shout out to you guys, especially to your admin, he used our usual caption, which we use internally to break that news that please read Kawowo. Usually I say Soma Kawowo, but read Kawowo for the announcement. But someone was asking that how is Tolbert going to manage the two roles, coaching the national sevens team and also having the assignment with Heathens locally. There was a time when those schedules were always clashing.
Of course, they haven't, like no one has officially said it yet, but we have to believe that with World Rugby taking away that sort of the pomp that was with the sevens, and you feel like it is now also coming back down to the local sevens circuits. You feel like sevens is no longer a priority for the national team. We have been fully invested in the 15s. For example, the women's sevens have been integrated into the 15s. So we await to see what will happen when they go to Mauritania later in June. Obviously, that will be either before or just when the local sevens circuits have begun. So we wait to see how he balances the role at Heathen Sevens and also the role on the national team. Of course, at the Heathens, he's going to be assisted by three very good coaches. That is Emmanuel Katuntu. Hi, Emma. Then there is also Coach Musava, that is Alex Mubiru, and Alan Otim on the SNC. So he has a very capable team there that can, of course, carry on the job even when he's away with the national team.
Oh, I'll miss the Sevens boys. I think they gave us so much joy. If I remember correctly, in the last 3 years, they gave us so much joy and pride cheering them on wherever they were playing. But is it the results that have forced the hand of Heathens, or This was a decision that Muhammad Athiyo made. Like, I've been here long enough. It's time for me to move on and allow new, fresh ideas to come through the team.
Yeah, of course, internally the Heathens say that this was the right time for him to go, for him to retire rather. They say that he wanted to retire at the end of last season after winning that treble, the Uganda Cup in January, then winning the league later in May, then also winning the Sevens in October. So they say that he wanted to leave then on a high. But then since the current coach of the Victoria Sharks, that is Kevin McMott, who was his assistant last season, moving on to become the head coach of the Victoria Sharks, they say that then they requested, they actually begged Coach Muhammad Athiyo to carry on with the task at the Heathens, at the helm of the Heathens, and that is a job that he did with very many ups and downs. Of course, some people shouting online that Athiyo out, but the man has been there for close to 10 years, and he has won you 5 trophies. That is 5 league titles. He has won you a 7th trophy after 11 years. He has also won you 3 Uganda Cups. You just, as they say, you just don't come. Put some respect on his name.
Yeah, Heathens Yamanyi. Well done, Heathens, for making sure that you honor people when they are still here and they're with you. And the full details of that story, by the way, will be coming up on Kawowo Sports. Joseph has just come from that event to be part of the weekly Wowos. So if you want to learn all the full details about the numbers it's been breaking down, make sure you read Kawowo Sports. But I'll move on to Kyla. Kyla, your starter for the week.
Yeah, my starter of the week comes from the sport of volleyball. This weekend, we got the vibe from Rwanda that just concluded their playoffs, and then we brought it back here in Uganda. Of course, the two best sides are taking on each other. That is Nemo Stars taking on Sportes. These are two sides that have 6 league titles each. And so this year we are separating men and boys. One will go to 7 and another will be remaining at 6. These two sides share a lot of history because when you look at the two sides, you feel like they have the composition of the national team. This side you're looking at George Aporu, and this side you're looking at Dickens. These are two guys that have been on the national team for as long as I remember, as long as I started watching the game. And so you feel they've inspired many, and so the game comes with a lot of emotions. One thing is that this is one game that pulls numbers, even when the federation does less. When it comes to marketing the game, you feel like at least internally they will always rally their followers, and somehow you find numbers in the arena. Because yesterday, while we watched the women's game, because the other semi-finals has Sports taking on KVC Nkumba, the numbers were few, and you could feel these are not numbers for playoffs or for games that are going to crown off the season. But when the men's game was about to start, you felt like the ambience sort of changed, and you could feel a bit of heat here and there, and somehow we had a great crowd, I must say, and the game moved on well. The first set was very close. You felt like it would go either side, but Sports moved on. Then they put a foot on the gear. You felt like they were in the mood, and they went into the second set with a better tempo. I, for one, we always have this discussion with Franklin. I still think our courts limit our players. And at one moment, you feel like some players can do more, but because they've been on funny courts for the longest time of their careers, we are poor receivers as a country. You will see that players are trying to block that ball. They are trying to have better styles of setting. But when it comes to receiving the ball, we look so poor, simply because you're not going to receive anyhow on a funny surface. You might end up losing your elbow. So when they get to even better surfaces, still you feel like there's always that fear of trying out something. So that denied us a good game. And I think Sports utilized that a lot, because we saw a lot of aces, and then we saw lots of forcing Nemo Stars into weird decisions, because they kept pumping them with those hard balls. Of course, Tumukunde and Sam had a very good game. Atumukunde has been rated as the best volleyball player by NCS in the recent awards, and
UOC.
UOC,
Yeah.
and so he looked great yesterday, carrying the team past that experienced Nemo Stars. The games are still going on. This is just game one. We don't have to get so much excited because we are playing best of three. But simply, we are requesting Nemo Stars. You cannot allow to be swept. At least take us to game three, and we have a party. Otherwise, for the sides that lost in the semi-finals, we had classification games whereby on the side of the ladies, it was won by KCC. They thrashed my UCU 3-0, and then for the side of the men, still it was UCU taking on KCC, and somehow UCU we managed to get that bronze. I'm saying we somehow managed because it was very hard. It was a game of 5 sets, and at one moment we were 2-1 down, but somehow we managed to get that one. So for me, my weekend was full of volleyball. It was less of basketball this time around. I was camping at Old Kampala, but shout out to those ladies that sell that tea at Old Kampala. The price is a bit less, but the quality is good. We appreciate
A bit less
them.
is how much? 2K? 1K?
Please allow me not to say the price.
I know they do so.
people might be renting me, and then they hear the price of the tea I take, and they are
And people
disappointed.
find out
Is it a plastic cup or
No, they have all classes, but on my side, I always prefer a plastic cup.
There's a lady who sells some good tea at KCC as well. Tea with the kabalagala, I think. And people are always rushing for it. That's the beauty of having sports facilities, that they create different opportunities for people. Instead of someone being swept off the streets, at least they have an opportunity. But the arena at Old Kampala, for me, kudos to the Volleyball Federation. They have a live stream for the finals, which is
No, it is not the federation, kindly.
Oh,
It's not the federation. We have to appreciate a club in Sportes that has decided to take this a bit higher when it comes to the point of streaming, and it goes across media. When you look at their social media pages, you feel like this is the club I want to associate with, because they will always release sheets for the team players. They will always keep updating. They'll always cut out those videos for those highlights. I enjoyed that big shot that went onto Ian's face. You know, against their player, but they're putting it out there and they're selling a game. And I hope that the country joins them in August as they celebrate their 30th anniversary, because they've really served the game. It's the only side I recall in years that has a home whereby we can go and watch volleyball, because they have a home in Zambia, and they always allow people to come in and watch the game for free, which I think when it comes to live streaming, you cannot even compare it to we are just coming from the Zone Championship, but they are coming from the Zone Championship, but their stream was funny. But when you look at Sportes, they've surely raised the bar high.
Yeah, big shout out here to Sportes, and they take a 1-0 lead in the series, like Kyle has mentioned, and like
Either way, for the women
for the
for
women
the
and for
men.
men. And like I've always mentioned, make sure you keep it Kawowo Sports for you to get the details of who will be the winner of the volleyball championship. My side of the week is a quick one. It's a bit internal, but I wanted to put it out in the spotlight. And I don't know if our producer can pull it up, but before the season started this year, we had made a prediction on who will win the Uganda Premier League. Very so some of the answers will exclude some people, because some of their predictions, I think, were on the other end, not at the top. But if you can be able to view it internally, each one of us made a prediction. Kyle, you were with
I was with Chitara.
Kyle was with Team Chitara. I predicted KCC, but that never happened. But I think the funniest of those predictions was one from the top. The man at the top predicted Mbare Heroes, and unfortunately, Mbare Heroes wrong side of the table anyway. It could have been right, but wrong side of the table. Mbare Heroes going down this season, but the team, a lot of really from the predictions, if you can see them, the people who are sure about these things, I think most of them predicted Vipers will be the champions. And ultimately, the rest of us, I think, voted with our hearts. The guys who know these things very well use their heads.
In most cases, they should allow us explain why we predict so.
There's no explanation for your predictions. You pick one team and you stick by it. I saw our editor Frank and Kawowo picking Bull. I don't know whether on the form of Bull last season he thought they could do better this year.
Yeah, because they lost narrowly last season, and you felt when the season was starting, they were organized. They won the Super 8. They started off strong, so you felt they had a chance.
Joseph is only one who never had a chance.
Yeah, I wasn't here for that one, but I would like to know
without
from Kyle,
hindsight.
Yes, I would like to know from Kyle why he voted against his own team. Why Chitara and not Vipers?
Oh, against no, my team against no, but I think I was going with Chitara simply because of the business in the transfer business that they had. I was looking at them improving their side with David Ndihabwe, improving their side with Freda Maku, bringing back an experienced forward in Kadu. Yes, then getting Ronaldo T from Bull. That is quite an experienced defender. So I felt they had brought in quite a good side, but also the coach had been there. They had won the Uganda Cup, so I felt there was going to be a bit of transition. But
a bit of momentum, and I think if you take away the poor stuff
I mean transition in these players getting better and feeling like we are growing, like there's being steps forward. But with the way that side started, because at one moment they were in relegation, and at one moment you felt like we might see Chitara go back, and but somehow they got back their season, but it was very late for them to be in the title talk.
But even take away the poor start they had, they are still among the top 6? I think they are among the top 6 teams. So if you take away that poor run they had in the beginning, maybe I don't know what happened. Either they started
that
a bit
is,
late. That's the list, the prediction from your favorite Kawowo Sports team. Every one of us had their own choice, but you can see I think it's Ismail Kiyonga went for Vipers. Joe Muita, the football guys really went for Vipers.
Fred as well.
Joe Muita went for Vipers. Fred, I think, just picked, copied and pasted from the other guys. Fred
Josh as well.
Josh is an OB. We shouldn't count that one. Josh is an OB. He was trying to remain safe.
Then there was also Benja.
Okay, Benja.
So the Mbu guys was well. They were up there.
John Butter went for Vipers. There are guys who are really consistent with Vipers, but I'm sure Fred. How can Raymond know that Vipers will be the winners? Those ones just copied and pasted.
No, they follow these things. They are always with us.
They copied and pasted. But that was really, that is what I wanted to bring up as my setup for the week. The predictions from your favorite Kawowo sports writers and team of how the UPL season will go. That conversation will be coming up later when Ismail Chiyonga joins us. But now let's talk about the schools rugby. Budo, again, reigning supreme against very, very close game against Namilyango. But that rivalry, I think, is starting to shake up things very, very well. Joseph, just tell us what happened.
Yeah, of course. First of all, the headline is that Budo has done the double against Namilyango. Although in the second instance, it was actually very sad because Namilyango had that game for most of the first half and most of the second half. Although in the second half, Budo was playing in Namilyango's half. Then, of course, that's what one would call a moment of madness from Namilyango, what the other would call a moment of brilliance from Budo, when Namilyango tried to clear their lines uncomfortably and then they couldn't. And Arthur, a very brilliant young player who belongs to the Cobs, by the way, scored that winning try for Budo. Why I'm emphasizing that Arthur is a Cobs junior player is for obvious reasons. Hi, David. Also, hi to my friend Abasa. Let us know where the players belong. Yeah, but then also still in Eastern Uganda, Kyle is here celebrating the bronze for UC from volleyball. Then Kyle, I don't deny your team. Then also Kyle's other team also won silver. Then your team, I think, I wouldn't call it a wooden spoon, but they got fourth in rugby. That is Busoga College. Yeah, so maybe the football guys will tell us what exactly was happening in the East later on. But yeah, congratulations to Buddo, well fought Namiliango. Maybe next year is your year, but for now, we celebrate with Buddo.
Yeah, how come are the tables turning, or Buddo is shaking up the status quo? We've always had it's either Namiliango or Smack, but now Buddo is starting to be a proper dominant team in schools rugby.
Oh boy, the coaching staff that Buddo has, when you look at, of course, Joseph Aredo, who is Ngonian, then you look at Coach Marvin Odong of the Pirates, who is also involved with the Buddo team. They also had Coach Brian Makalama, former national team coach. Those are all experienced coaches that are working with a bunch. Yes, they also have the latest updates. Ernest Akoye-Virungi, who is also another brilliant up-and-coming coach whenever he decides to drop the pen.
Thing.
Yes.
Is that a coach?
Yes, that's a coach. That is called a Rasi tactic. He works on as a water boy, but with plenty of tactics. He usually also has that small notebook of his where he jots down all the tactics.
The magical notebook.
The magical notebook. Yeah, so Buddo, of course, they also have very brilliant players. Previously, people used to say that Buddo, Smack used to call them chips because, you know, they quite have the size. And when you have that size and you have experienced forward coaches like Brian Odong, sorry, not Brian Odong, Marvin Odong, I was thinking of the other Brian Odong, BOD. Marvin Odong, you also have Coach Makalama, who is a very good forwards coach. Then you bring in the brilliance of Joseph Aredo and Ernest Akoye-Virungi. I think that is a team that is set to dominate even beyond now because, for example, their star player is only in Form 5 right now. If he's allowed to play again next year, it is problems for everyone else.
I was just going to say who's on the other technical bench, because you've mentioned the Buddo one. Who's on the Namiliango technical bench to just help out the boys?
Yes, of course, the Namiliango bench also has very good coaches, coaches who have played together, who have coached together, who have also been involved in rugby together at a club level. That is Coach Pius, and also Coach Walakida, and the other team, the other bigger team that is involved with the Namiliango side. They have done very well. Of course, reaching the final in itself is a victory, but of course you're going to win it. But by the time you get to that final, that means you've done your homework, you've put in the work, and maybe things just don't work out, or maybe you get unlucky like was the case in Eastern Uganda, or maybe the other team is simply better than you, like it was the case in the Central League.
All right. And the teams that, the top 4 teams all qualify for the East African Games, right?
Yeah, so Mwiri will be going for the East Africa Games.
That was you.
So Mwiri
I set him up properly.
Here they were only swallowing 45 from Buddo. We don't know what those Kenyan schools shall do, but I'm very sure by the time that time gets around,
it's okay.
Yeah, I hope Mwiri will be ready for that. But kudos to them. Obviously, Smack not doing themselves any favors.
The rugby may not be that good, but Joseph was really was stand out from all the jerseys that I saw at that competition.
Yeah, it is a very beautiful jersey. Of course, it only comes second to Buddo's jersey. Of course, kudos to Giordano and Stings, who are the designers of beautiful kits like the one of Buddo and of course the one of Impis.
Joseph, you're still making sure you fix Impis somewhere there, but it's okay. But very good. The schools rugby really catching up. I remember there's a time schools rugby final happened at Chadi, and there was really a rush for tickets at the gates, and it was nearly full. But that is all good stuff there from the URIU, making sure that the game is alive in schools. And just to wrap up the rugby conversation, because it's a big rugby conversation coming up, which when Joseph is going to be Joseph and his friends will be hosted in a special edition of the Weekly Wowos. So make sure you look out for that. This week is going to be very, very interesting. They will be previewing everything that happened in the Uganda Rugby League this season. So that conversation is coming up, and it is going to be fun. I can tell you, I want to be part of it, but I don't know that much rugby, but it's going to be fantastic. So look out for it. It's coming up this week. But just to wrap up the rugby conversation, the Black Pearls might have lost on Saturday to the Thunderbirds, but they were crowned champions of the Women's League as well. A brilliant try there by Samia Lekuru. Samia Ayukuru,
yes.
not Lekuru. But Black Pearls, okay, throw flowers for your team, Joseph. I'm warning people, but Black Pearls winning the Women's League.
Yes, first of all, kudos Black Pearls. Mwaba Singer, thank you for the work. Coach Helen and your team, thank you for putting in the work. Yes, you are champions. For me, my first takeaway from that game, first of all, they lost, and they shouldn't have. They were only supposed to win by 1 point, and 1 point was enough for them to clinch the trophy. However, also making sure that the Thunderbirds do not get the bonus point was also enough for them to win the trophy. Of course, the Thunderbirds had a better points difference. The Thunderbirds had a better points difference than the Black Pearls, but then the Black Pearls knew that all they had to do was lose with less than 4, which they did on the day. And for me, interestingly, the first scene that I saw at full time, when that final whistle blew when the final whistle blew, and the scorecard was showing 24-10. The Thunderbirds first celebrated without realizing what had just happened. Then my Black Pearls first froze, and then when they looked to the bench, they saw Coach Helen celebrating. And I had a very interesting interview with Susan Adong and Charlotte Mudola after the game. And they both confessed, and they intimated to me that initially they didn't know what had just happened. Then they looked to the bench, they saw their coaches celebrating. Maybe they had calculators nearby. So when the coaches celebrated, the players also celebrated. They lost the battle on the day, but of course they won the war, which is the Uganda Women's Rugby Premier League.
Yeah, and I saw someone complaining that there was really no... The fanfare that the men got was not at Chadi. I don't know how they celebrated, but they felt that they should have also been celebrated the way usually with all that pomp that comes with the men's final.
First of all, the women are playing a league format that is home and away. They've been playing like that. So, for example, when the Thunderbirds visited the Black Pearls in the first leg, the Black Pearls beat them with a bonus point. So now there were only 5 points behind them, and what that meant that this game essentially was a final in itself. Yeah. So maybe that's why the ladies feel like they should have had maybe bigger crowds, maybe the bigger pomp are building up to that game leading up to that game, which was essentially a final, which didn't happen. Of course, the staunch fans came through, women's rugby fans came through. The numbers were actually not that bad, but for that stand that you see in the background, that is usually filled to capacity when random men's teams are playing. But I think the women are getting there. Yeah. Women's rugby in Uganda is getting there because now they have the teams, and it is a little bit more competitive. On that very day, there were 3 games there, and the second game of the day was the Ewes against the She-Wolves from Mbali. Ewes from Makerere, She-Wolves from Mbali. That game ended 15-15. So if that isn't a sign of growth in the league, that used to have only 3 teams, that was the Black Pearls, Avengers, and Thunderbirds, but now the league has been expanded. And it has also been expanded organically because now there is a better competition from all the sides. Of course, the top 2 sides will come through and hammer on the other teams. But then when the other teams get together, they also have their own mini league there, and they are doing very well. Women's rugby in general is doing very well. Let me give you another example. Last week, the women began training. They have a Rugby Africa Cup in next month in June, which begins around the 9th of June. Around there, we shall confirm, but I've written on it in Kawowo. Yeah. So the women are playing Rugby Africa Cup, and when you see the composition of that team, obviously it is dominated by the 3 traditional teams, but you also have other younger players coming in from teams like teams like the Youths, of course, teams like She-Wolves have representatives both on the 7s and the 15s. So that isn't growth that you'd say is plastic, whether you can't argue that the union is enforcing or the union is trying to, like, build something out of thin air. It is something that has been going on in these different regions of Uganda, and we are yet to see those results, and they will come.
All right. Thank you very much, Joseph. And really big shout out to the Black Powers.
Interesting sequence there. Samia Aikoro kicked the ball over. Then, unfortunately, Rebecca Kabajungu, a player that I rate very highly, was caught in two minds. Should I run the ball or should I pass it? And then she saw a more senior player next to her and decided to pass to her, maybe for relief. I would do the same. And that ball was plucked out of the sky by the player who began that whole sequence, Samia Ekoro. So we can't wait to see her in that 15 jersey of Uganda.
Samia is one of my favorite rugby players, honestly. And for her to see her do that superstar stuff, even a flying dive there to finish off the try under the post. But very good stuff there. A big shout out there to the Black Powers. And like I've mentioned, the big rugby conversations coming up in a special edition of the Weekly Wowos, where Joseph and his friends will be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of what happened in the rugby leagues, in the rugby league, Rugby 15s league this season, because the Seconds League is yet to happen. But that has been our rugby conversation on this Weekly Wowos. Do not miss out on that special edition of the Weekly Wowos Rugby edition. It will be coming up sometime this week. I'll just switch up things and move quickly to the football experts, and I'll start with Kyle, and I'll just try to mention something that I read on the website from Joel Moita. Kampala Queens selling the women's the women's league. They might have lost to Kabwempe Muslim, but they were crowned champions. And for Kampala Queens, I've always felt for the sort of investment they've had in the game, they really deserve to be champions.
Yeah, when you look at Kampala Queens and the investment that they've had in this game, bringing in a foreign coach, which is not something we normally see in the women's league, surely somehow you felt like it was a high time that we were going to see a champion, but also it was a high time that we were going to see them win the league again. Because when you look at the season, this current season, of course, Kawempe started on very well, and at one moment you felt like they were running away with full form, but also with lots of young talents. But they lost a number of players in that transfer, losing the defender who moved on to Egypt, and then they lost Hadija, who I think was also an integral player. They are shirt 10. We normally know for players who put on shirt 10, but also she was also a captain, a midfielder who would get you quite a number of goals. You felt like the team got in a cold mood, but also they had lost leaders in just a short time. Of course, it being a school, you know that players will always move after finishing Form 6. It's only on a few moments whereby we see players reserved, maybe to help nurture the young players. So Kawempe then lost the run, and when Kampala Queens got the new coach, at one moment you felt like it was a very changed side. I loved the way they were playing, because it is very hard to find a women's side that possesses that ball comfortably. We've already seen sides like Kawempe play a bit of beautiful football. We've seen the sides like Rines play beautiful football. But I think for this season, Kawempe has, Kampala Queens has looked the better side when it comes to the way they've been playing. I watched their game against Wakiso, a side that was relegated, and they had the ball. I beg to be corrected, but they had the ball for something like 8 minutes before scoring, and like you kept seeing one side have the ball, and it is very hard to see a side possess the ball, go to the other side, come back, go to the other side, come back, go to the other side until they score. So they've looked a better side, and I only wait to see how they're going to look like going on to the continent, because it's been looking a bit ugly that each side that has gone on to the continent has looked a shadow of themselves in the following league. It happened when She Corporates went on to play in the region, trying to fight for a position in the Champions League. But when they came back, they got themselves relegated. The same thing happened to Kawempe. They finished in the third position, but coming back, they've not looked that sharp like they were in the previous season. So we wait to see whether this Kampala Queen side can be kept together. That is the first thing, because whenever these sides lose their best players, then a lot of things change, because these are women. Their things a bit held slow, like Tobakwata Nyona pressure. They are caught into, or they are held into a bit of comfort. So we are waiting to see, but congratulations, Kampala Queens, and we are waiting to see what you can do when you represent us at the region, or if so, at the continent.
Big congratulations to Kampala Queens and all their whole management. My producer Fred has told us that we have some celebrations from the Black Powers. We just want to have a look at them. Only to be fair, celebrations from Black Powers after winning the league. That's the fifth title in a row, right?
Fourth title
in a row for them.
The first loss. This is their first loss in 4 years in the Rugby 15s League, and this is their fourth title in 4 years. Wow. So congratulations once again.
Yeah, some amazing stats there from Black Powers. First loss in 4 years, and the fourth title in a row. That's very dominant. Dominant spelled there in capital letters. Very well done there by those are the celebrations there from I think Thunderbirds picking up their runners-up medals before Black Pearls were awarded the title. Before Black Pearls were awarded the title, their fourth championship. They were able to do it even when they are missing their best player, Emily Lekuru, who's on a professional stint in Japan. She made her debut as well this weekend. That story was on Kawowo. Made her debut this weekend for her team in Japan. But big congratulations there to the Black Pearls and their whole management. Very well done from them after picking up their fourth title in rugby. Thank you very much, Fred. Just to make sure that the ladies are also very well celebrated. But we are joined by Koja Ismail Chionga, and we're going to be talking about everything football. A lot of football happened last weekend. Last week he joined us to preview Vipers on the road to Hoima, to face off with Chitara in two very important games. But this time, and his prediction, I must say, he was spot on. Clearly, that's why he's a Koja. Of course, KCC as well going to Mbale to take on Kataka in their second leg, and KCC coming out of that one, they got a draw, but ultimately what they wanted is progression to the final that will be at Kadiba. But let me start with the league. And Ismail Chionga has written a very good story as well. I don't know if you've been able to read it on Kawowo Sports. The story has the numbers for this season. The numbers detail everything that Vipers have been able to go through for them to be champions. And some of the numbers in that, some of the stats are amazing in themselves. He will talk about them more, but most goals, least goals conceded, some very good details. Make sure you go to Kawowo Sports to find that story. And I'll just bring him from there. Let me start with that story, the one that he wrote himself. Ismail, if you can talk us through the numbers for Vipers this season. On their way, picking up their 8th title of the season. 7th title. Yeah. They are now tied on the same number of titles as Mukwano Gwabanji Express. But let's start from there, Ismail. The numbers for Vipers this season.
For starters, this just belongs to Fitness Arena Football Club, the club where I always play in the evening. He's been there, he's witnessed me scoring goals, so he knows what I can do.
The problem Kyle fears you, so he will not be objective.
No, I've been there.
He's been there, he's seen me do the things. Sometimes I play defense, of course, scoring goals. And for this reason, any side there that wants a goal-scoring striker because we have some defensive ones like Rasmus Højlund at Man United, but a goal scoring center forward, I'm available.
Yeah.
So
we are struggling at KCC.
yeah,
but we are not desperate.
the window opens very soon. Unfortunately, by then, by the time KCA plays Vipers in the Uganda Cup final, the window will still be closed. So KCC, you miss out next season maybe. Vipers won a 7th league title, equaling Express FC. Express FC is the oldest club in the Uganda Premier League. They are the only side never to play in the second division. They've only played in the Uganda Premier League because they were part of the formation, I think around 1969. By then, Mike Grant, Alich Tonsa, was part of that Express side. He scored a lot of goals for Express FC, for Uganda Cranes. So it doesn't surprise that one of his clones plays as a striker and scores a lot of goals. Vipers, at the moment, they lead the table by 4 unanswerable points because there is only one game to go. They'll be hosting Solitro Bright Stars, already relegated. That will be on the 24th.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday. So that will be just a crowning moment. By equaling Express FC, they are now the most successful side in the league in 4th place, apart from Villa 17, then KCC 13. They've overstayed there, by the way. And then
It's been a while.
they are jointly tied with Express in 3rd, with URA 4th. It's a shame to the Express fraternity out there. The only side never to play in the lower division, but the titles don't match the gigantic stature that we all associate with them. And since 1998, when they lifted that title, where they still had the likes of Fred Tamale, George Semwogerere, Philip Obwinyi by then was still at Express, Joseph Mutiaba and the likes, they've only won 2 titles. That was in 2011, 2012. And also
the recent one with
COVID
Wasabosa,
title.
the COVID
the
title.
COVID title. They shouldn't have won that, by the way. I think URA should have taken it if the games were completed. So it's a little bit shaming. Vipers have conceded the least number of goals. At the moment, they've conceded 15. The least number of goals conceded by a team in a campaign that had 30 matches was still Vipers, 16 goals, I think, in 2018-2019. And they have the top scorer, the lead top scorer at the moment, Alan Okero. Yes, he's scored some goals from the penalty spot, but that's not his
they all
problem
count.
because they all count. Maybe on the final day, one of the things to look at is the fight for the golden boot, because with Ivan Imbisi was scoring against Wachiso Giants in the recent game, it means he's 2 goals shy of Alan Okero. His team will play I've forgotten the opponent, but he has a chance to overtake Okero or even tie, like we've seen in the previous campaigns where people have tied. And also Okero also has a chance to extend, because in the previous since
Surely you pick him to score against the Bright Stars.
Since 2012-2013, only 2 players have scored 20 plus goals. That was Hamani Waswa in 2012-2013 when played for Villa and KCC, and also Geoffrey Serunkuma. I think that was 2016-17 when he scored 21 for KCC. So Alan Okero has a chance to make it 20. They've also had different match winners. For instance, Gusto Mlongo, one of his favorite players, I don't know exactly what he does apart from maybe scoring important goals. He's amassed over 11 points for the club. His goals are always match winners. All, at least, they always get a point. So they've had a lot of match winners. Karim Watambala, Alan Okero, Milton Kalisa, and even Yunus Sentamu, who I think should be scoring more goals, has also been scoring some very important goals en route to their championship. Like I said before, when Vipers don't win the championship, they are always a hard team to beat in the in the season that follows. Whenever they win, it's very easy for them to get complacent. And also, this was the first time that we've seen a coaching duo win the title, because at Vipers there is no head coach. Of course, many would prefer to call John Ayala Luyinda, who joined 3 games into the season as the head coach, but the club remained silent on that and later said they are co-coaches. We've seen Fred Muhumuza doing most of the touch line. Manning, he's been the one that is even vocal in the papers, in the media, but we also know what John Ayala Luyinda has been doing to the club, technically, tactically, in the training sessions and everything like that. So by doing so, they became the first co-coaches to win the title. It has never happened in Uganda, because the last time we had something like that was, I think KCCA, Mike Mutebe and Simba, although Simba was named assistant, but he would take over the touchline duties like we see Muhumuza, but then he didn't finish the campaign. Remember, he was suspended. He was suspended after claims of match fixing.
Yeah.
So they miss out. And if we dig deep, this could be the youngest coaching duo to also win the title. I don't know. I don't remember the age of Miguel da Costa when he won it with Vipers.
Da Costa was a young man, wasn't he? 33 or something.
If he was, then this record still stands, because Ayala, despite having a very young look, he's into his 40s, and Muhumuza should be the youngest of the two. But congratulations to them. They deserve to win.
Yeah.
They've only lost 3 games at the moment. And like I said, they only lost to teams that they had to lose to. I think that's where they also won it. They lost to Villa away in Wankruku, away to BAL, and away to NEC, the second place team in the season. They've not dropped points where they should have won. They've won games that you think they should be winning, and I think that's where KCCA
the losses have been insignificant. They haven't hurt them that much. Not insignificant, but they haven't
they haven't hurt them much, and they lost points in games where you could say, if we lose this, it's understandable. But we've seen KCCA lose games where they shouldn't be dropping points. The same happens with the NEC, because if NEC looks at the season, they will not like to see the draws at Wachiso Giants, the draw at UPDF, then even the loss at Vipers. When you go into a game where you neck to neck with the table leader, the worst you can get is a draw. Then they also lost 3 points at Lugazi early in the season, dropping points at home to BAL. Yes, BAL are unbeaten in the second round, but you think if you're going to win the title, these are the games that you have to make sure you don't drop points, and they did. Express FC, we are non-existent. Villa, the champions, as expected, did not perform so well, especially after losing most of their key players. Remember, Gavin Chisto left, Kenneth Semakula left, they had Umar Lutalo leave. All these were very, very key components in their triumph in the season before. And then Kim Chiwanuka also left mid-season. Ronald Uganda went a wall. Of course, reports say he's injured, but according to my sources, he went and signed for APR in Rwanda before this season ended, and that's when the Highlight at Villa said enough is enough. So he's been pronounced as injured. He's not featured for months now. He knows more at Villa. Maybe
I'm coming to him.
he will be telling us. But all in all, I think no team deserved to win the championship more than Vipers. We expected to have Chitala in there, but they had a very, very bad start to the season, and it did affect them. Even when they started winning games and Waswabosa, it was a little too late. Then BAL also started the season in a weird manner, losing a lot of points. I can attribute that to not hosting games at Njeru, because by that time they are hosting from
Lugazi. They hosted some games in Lugazi.
Yeah, they dropped a lot of points. In the end,
they even moved to Nachivubo.
for the game against Chitala. Yeah. But in the end, they deserved the winners. Vipers, kudos to them. Special thanks to my guys out there, especially John Ayala Luyinda, and of course, Michael Ja, Simon Sekanja of Hardware World.
Yeah, Vipers are the champions, 7th league title for them. And I've told you that preview with all the numbers is on the website there from Ismail Kionga. And I'll also remind you that Ismail Kionga and his football friends will also be having a special edition of the Weekly Wowos just to preview the UPL season and talk about all the numbers, the details, the best players, the best signings. That edition will be coming up very, very soon for you to be able to watch and get all the details from what has been a very entertaining
UPL season. I don't know whether
season.
our producer has that piece where we did make predictions at the start of the season.
Yeah, we flashed it at the beginning of the show.
I'm one of the people that
don't
predicted
worry,
Vipers to win.
Taken care of. Your prediction was very well
This
taken
one
care
gave
of.
Chitara?
Yeah.
You
Kyle
gave KCC?
I gave KCC. Kyle had mentioned
Ernest
Chitara.
Akol gave
Ernest gave KCC.
gave KCC.
Fred gave Viper.
Fred gave Vipers.
Fred,
Kudos. Fred is our producer. He's
even Raymond,
In
you
fact,
can
even
imagine,
Raymond,
predicted
even
Raymond
Vipers.
gave Viper.
Even
John
Benjamin
Butter,
of
John Butter,
Mbu.
and
So-
Josh Ruby.
Josh gave Vipers.
Yeah.
Yeah, John
and John
Butter,
Butter.
and Benji.
And the big man,
Bali.
maybe. Joseph Owino predicted the Vipers, Imbalayilos, to lift the title, but maybe he meant lifting all other teams because they are at the base. And it means they are carrying all other teams on their head.
At the wrong end of the table. But Kyle, just coming to you, one of the interesting stats that I read from that story that Chionga made was, I think since 2000, Vipers have been the most successful team in the league. They've won the most titles. If I got correct,
Since 2010, when they won their first.
since 2010, have they been that dominant in your opinion?
I might not call it dominance, but I think they have had their house bit in order. It has been manageable. One of the challenges that we have with most of our clubs is that it is very hard to find the same leadership of the club season in, season out. You will talk about clubs like KCC. At one moment when they had a good relationship with KCC, KCC, the authority, you felt like the support was there, the money would come in, and all people that are close to that club have always attributed that the man who was the chairman of the club had full support, and whenever coaches would be like, this is the player we want this, we want to try out this, that happened. But when you talk closely to the coaches that have been around of recent, they will tell you that they've wished to have some players come onto their team, but it has not happened. You will talk about Express. When they had the Anthony Johnny as closely to the club, you felt the money was there. They got in sponsorships like that of Betway. You felt there was a bit of a team. The CEO was working closely with the club. He had full authority of the club, but I don't think it's the same thing with the current CEO, Miro. And I think
the current CEO holds more powers because he literally owns the team. But then he's the one that is responsible for digging deep, sometimes from his pockets, to ensure the team gets paid. Unlike before when KKW had just joined, remember, he was funding the team. They had Betway. So the CEO, then Isaac Mwesigwa, all he needed was manage the secretariat. But currently, sometimes it appears like the team has been left to the CEO, Ashraf Miro.
Yeah, there are a couple of games where
and you see, we can
showed up very, very
we can stretch this conversation to clubs like Chitara and all that, because you rarely see a club in Uganda that has the same leadership. But I think that has been the big asset at Vipers, that Dr. Lawrence Mulindwa will always be there. And we all know that in football, if the support is there, then you clearly see it on the stadiums. Look at the bonuses that Vipers have been bragging about. yes, the league, when you take the title, they are going to give you 60 million. That is money coming from FIFA. But with the players, they already have a bonus stock of 150 million, which I think when you talk about these figures and bring them down to the players, then you will literally have a team of people who are going to fight and put everything on the green just to see that the club wins. But also, I want to bring it back to what Ismail has said, that each time Vipers fail to take a trophy, they'll always try to bounce back in the coming season, and that has been a difference because they've always had that bounce back that then puts their house in order in a few minutes, and you see that they're a rejuvenated side that wants to go back to winning ways, which has not been the case in clubs like KCC, that they've failed to find a solution for saying, how do we win trophies again? And you feel that the talk goes back to, should Mutebi come back? Is Mike Mutebi going to come back and save the team? And stuff like that. But I still congratulate Vipers for winning the trophy. But now the assignment would be, can they have at least a foot when they go to the continent? Because they've always looked a shadow of themselves at the continent. Some have come out to say it comes down to experience. But I think if they prepare themselves better and also have a few things held internally as a club, they can at least go and at least have a decent show at the continent.
Yeah, a wonderful experience for the Vipers fans after they were able to clinch their 7th title. But like I've mentioned, that special conversation about football will be coming up sometime next week when Ismail, Joel Muita, David Isabi and Kyle sit down together and preview the season in detail, bringing to you everything that has been happening in the UPL season. Of course, NEC will most likely finish second. KCCA have had a good run, but at the back end will not be good enough, may not even be good enough for them to sneak into the top 3. But speaking KCCA, one of the assignments for Vipers was to make sure that they do not lose their 1-0 advantage from the first leg of the Uganda Cup that was at Kitende. They went and were able to win by a solitary goal there from Karim Watambara, 1-0 in the game on Saturday, for them to be able to get themselves into the final on May 31st against KCCA, who are also able to pick up a 1-1 draw against host Kataka in Mbale. Let's start with the Mbale match that we're able to watch at office yesterday. Kataka taking on KCCA. KCCA, and I'll start with Koja, not very, very comfortable in that game because there were some long throws there by Kataka. I think they had only one plan and one plan at all, to use those long throw-ins to destabilize KCCA. Was not a very comfortable game for KCCA, but somehow they managed to pick up a draw that was enough for them to go through to the final on a 4-1 aggregate. That game, Koja, what did you make of it, and how KCCA were able to survive that onslaught from Kataka?
It was always going to be tough for Kataka to score 3 to tie up that game, especially after KCC won 3-0 at home. It looked like they had already put a foot into the final. All they needed was to manage the game in Kataka, which they did for me very well, because when you go to a pitch like that, all you need to avoid is conceding fast, because just imagine if they conceded before Gabi, Joao Estavio, the Brazilian, scored, it would have been a little chaotic. Credit to Kataka. They did have a very good tournament. Remember, they eliminated URA, they eliminated Police all away from home. And for me, there is that time of satisfaction, especially for teams that play in the lower leagues. There is that stage where you believe this is enough. And that came against KCCA. I remember by end of February, it was very clear KCCA was not going to win the championship, the league. So they channeled all their efforts to the Uganda Cup. I remember speaking to one of the players, that was Peter Magambo, after the round of 64, and he told me, you know what, you're going to win this Uganda Cup. Coach Abdallah Mbiru, by then, he told me the league games were giving them momentum for the Uganda Cup, because they had already made a decision that this is the trophy that would have a chance to win. So I'm not surprised that they've gone all the way to the final. Of course, they've been lucky with the draws because they are the only team remaining yet to play a Premier League side. All the teams they faced en route to reaching the final have been lower league teams. Remember Kuruva something, Kuruva Rainbow. Then they played Luenzoli Lions. Karokarunji. By the Luenzoli Lions survived because if Football Classroom, the team I play for in the Uganda Cup, had got past Buhimba, we would be facing them. All KCCA were even lucky that by that time the Football Classroom was already out, but we wanted to play one of those teams, by the way. Our target was to play KCC Villa or Vipers, and unfortunately, Bohemba Saints didn't do us a favor in that game. But talking KCCA,
Bohemba Saints might come to the top tier, so it shows the quality.
Yeah. They were top, but also we were cheated in that game by a referee, because I think we should have had a penalty late in the game. The referee didn't see that, and I won't mention the name of the referee because so many people in the Football Classroom, by the way, they watch a lot of this show, the weekly Wowos. So KCCA reaching the final deservedly. Apart from one game at home, by the way, against Lorenzo, they played all their games away from home, save for the semi-final that is two-legged. And they have had to dig deep. Playing those teams,
proper cup team.
Playing those lower division teams at their homes is also another big task. I always tell people that are around me that for me in the Uganda Cup draw, the team that I want all support in that competition, I always fancy facing teams around Kampala and Wachiso, and that's if away. But I would prefer playing a Super League team at home than traveling to Karokarunji. But they've been proper cup team, like you said. A tough game away against Karokarunji. I don't think they deserve to win. In the 90 minutes, maybe Karokarunji didn't do themselves a favor by missing lots of chances.
I think KCC were only resilient, but they wasted a lot of chances as well.
And we even saw, even with Kataka, just imagine if KCCA had not got that third goal that came late in the game, it would have been tough as well. But congratulations to them, they deserve to be there. They are going to face Vipers, a repeat of the 2018 final. For the readers out there, an article about the teams that played in that final is coming up, so it will be an interesting read. Alan Okero was playing for KCCA then, he's at Vipers. Julius Poroto is the only player that has not changed club since then, and Filiberto Obenchan. Yes, Obenchan missed a season without a club, but 7 years later, 7-8, because that was 2017, we are in 2015. It was 2018. We are in 2025. So all those many years later, we still have Julius Poroto. He scored the winner. It came in the 42nd minute. We still have Filiberto Benchan at KCCA. Peter Magambo was part of the squad. And then from Vipers, Moses Waiswa. Of course, he left for Supersport and then played at KCCA. He played in that game. Dan Muzai Serunkuma started that game at Vipers. He has also not moved. He's not played a lot of games in the previous 2 campaigns.
Is he still at Vipers?
Yes, and he's still attached to Vipers, so he was part of that team.
And he's scoring goals in Evika.
Then Militon Kalisa played that game. He moved to Morocco for a season and then returned to Vipers. Who else? I think those are the players that featured in that game that are still with a chance to play this one. Alan Okero winning both. Let's wait and see. Julius Poroto putting the nail in the Vipers' coffin again in the Uganda Cup. Wait and see. Philibert Robin Chan was a young man then, preferred by Mike Mutebi at right back. KCCA was coached by Mike Mutebi then, and Vipers by Miguel da Costa. Ironically, KCCA went into that game as second favorites. Vipers had just lifted the league. They wanted to win their first double. So they already have a double, one year, I think, in 2023, under Alexis Sabiri. Can they stop KCCA from stopping them from winning another double? Because if they do, they will be the second in terms of doubles to SC Villa, who has won the league and cup double on 6 occasions. 1986, 1988, 1989, to 1998, 2002, and 2000. And for a record, I think I made a mistake when I said Express won the title in 1998. They won the title in 1996. KCCA 97, then Villa swept from 1998 to 2004.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting statistics. Yeah, that was the route. That was the journey of KCCA, and like Chiunga has mentioned, a lot of nuggets of wisdom in that detail, because KCCA ironically have not played any of the Premier League teams on their way to the final. But speaking, I will have Kyle speak up, have the last word on the journey of Vipers to the final as we wind up this one. Vipers have had the difficult path, you might say, considering that for them they had to go through some really top teams, and Chitara being one of them. On Wednesday, their president had said that when they lost to Vipers, that, you know what, we gave them a second team, but on Saturday we're going to go all out against the Vipers. That just never happened.
In one of the groups that we share, I told him Saturday isn't far. He hasn't replied to me since then.
That wasn't the case, because Karim Watambara with the only goal in that game, and Vipers making sure that their return journey from Hoima was a very, very good one.
Yeah, you could say that Vipers had a tough journey, but I think they were also lucky that most of their games were played at home. I think it's either one,
apart from the
opening,
where all big teams travel.
Yes, apart from the opening tie, whereby all teams play away from home.
Teams in the big league and the Premier League play the round of 65 from home.
Yeah, apart from that, most of the games have been at home, because you want to talk about Black Powers, then later on you will talk about SC Villa. So those
embarrassed as well.
Yes, those are 3 games that were played at home. Of course, when you go into the game against Chitara, it was more of the repeat of last season, because the two sides met at the quarterfinals, and Chitara eliminated Vipers. While this time round, at least they met in the semi-finals, whereby they had a chance to play 2 games. That is at home and away from home. But it has been the case throughout most of the games that we've seen this campaign, that Vipers have always found that chance that they utilize and then get the lead and then defend their goal, because they've not conceded a lot, but they've always had that chance. Ismail always describes it as match winners, having players that can always take away those chances and put you ahead. When you look at the first leg that was played at Chitende, the goal came in very late, and up to now, Chitara fans still complain that the goal was scored out of the time that was added. But for those that watched the game, you remember that Crispas Kusima wasted a lot of time, but also Chitara wasted a lot of chances.
Yeah, I was going to say that in that game, I think Chitara could only blame themselves.
They
had better chances than Vipers.
Yes, I for one still think even on Saturday, they had very clear chances. I remember that chance that fell to Benjamin Nyakojo, who would easily have given Chitara a lead in the opening 15 minutes, but still he failed to put that ball on target. So somehow Vipers have looked like that side that know how to grind results, and they found themselves in the finals. Of course, this is a game that the federation can use to market football, because we've looked at different countries having those A-class games. Of course, in Uganda, you'd want to talk about Express taking on Villa. But of late, there is a way that game has lost the attention of the crowd or the attention of media for many reasons that we cannot break down today. But when you talk about KCC and Vipers, this is a game that you can use to pull crowds. They told us that the game will be played at Kadiba, and that is an announcement that came off earlier. But while I was reading Peter Tabu's post today, it also came to my mind that this is a game that you want to give quite a big venue, market it well, let it pull all the attention that you can have, because this is a game that is going to conclude the campaign or the football season, because we shall go into that game after Vipers will have been crowned champions. So this is a game that you can milk and say, this is what we have down in Uganda. This is how our football looks like. And having KCC in quite a desperate mood that they want to go back to the continent, but also having Vipers in a desperate mood of wanting to have that dominancy and get their second Salongo. These are two sides that are going to have a game whereby they are fighting for a title. And I think it's quite a perfect occasion to do everything possible to ensure that the game has big numbers that we want to talk about, but also to create that ambience of football that can surely produce the best possible. But according to the information that we have till date, this is a game that will be used to open Kadiba Stadium. This is a stadium that has been built by FUFA, by different funds, but at least it's under the management of FUFA. And we are waiting to see how that action will look like. But for every football fan, this is a game that you don't want to miss, because it is on rare occasions that we see two big sides with a lot of rivalry, with a lot of fans that have a lot of noise on internet face to fight for just a title.
Yeah, the perfect final for a competition that holds a lot of history for Ugandan football. The Uganda Cup final will be contested by the champions of the Uganda Premier League, Vipers, who will be taking on KCCA. The road to Kadiba, that like it has been built, that preview will be coming up next week because that final is on 31st. And we shall have all these experts to tell you all the stories. But like Ismail Chionga said, in the meantime, make sure you go to Kawowo Sports, read the build up to this final. There will be a lot of details, a lot of numbers that can help you get information on how we shall be able to preview this final, the road to Kadiba, where KCC and Vipers will be facing off for the winners of the Uganda Cup. The winner of the Uganda Cup gets to represent Uganda in the Cup Confederations Cup, while the league champions, who are Vipers, will be the representatives of Uganda in the CAF Champions League. So a lot of this game, like Kyle has mentioned, it should be a proper big punch for punch game, because these are some of the two most successful clubs in Ugandan football. But Fred is always complaining because we take up a lot of time and these conversations will never end. But that has been our time this week on the Weekly Wowos. But do not forget that a special edition of the Weekly Wowos will be coming up, where Joseph Mahomes and his friends will be previewing the rugby league season. And thereafter, when we conclude with the Uganda Cup, the football guys will also sit down and have a special edition of the Weekly Wowos talking about the football season in this year. So do not miss out. Watch out for those. But we'll start off with the rugby edition that will be coming up this week. I've been your usual weekly host, Dennis Musali, and I've had the pleasure of hosting Edwin Kalkule, our resident expert, Koja Ismail Chionga, Joseph Muhumuza, and as always, make sure you keep reading Kawowo Sports. We'll see you next time.